Hi, Kora.
Hello, my dear Anu. Glad to speak with you.
I feel so grateful today because when I was talking to Dawson, I didn't know so much about him. And he's a he's a very nice human being. And with you, I met you many, many years back. We had a drink together with our another friend of Yasmina. And I got to know you at that point very closely. I loved the person who was sitting on the other side, just drinking, having fun. And something in you touched my heart on that day. And you've always remained that. For people who don't know you, Kora, who are you? Not just your titles, but who are you?
Such a big question right in the beginning. So, I mean, titles is what really means the least to me. So I usually just forget even naming anything. So, but for the record, I'm right now a certification trainer in Mental Health International. So I'm doing those trainings, and I'm doing them, most of them online, both for the German speaking community, because I'm also born in Germany, just like Torsten, and but also internationally. Right now I have an international English speaking course going, and I'm very grateful to have people also like you and other. So I love including other people to share their wisdom. So that's actually that's what brought me into mental health, actually. So because I was looking, I had already found some knowledge about some basic things in mental health, like I knew about Dr. Hammer and all of this long before. But at a certain point, when I made changes in life, and I wanted to do something, really to work something with it, I was looking for both for kind of a way and an organization to do it kind of the correct way, or to have some kind of real education and subtitle. So that was like the only one, because when you want and need to work with something, people want to see this, right? And I was looking out for it. And then I wanted to go to mental health to meet all those people from around the world and to be in communication and discussion about those things, about the findings and what we ourselves find and all of that. I really love this. So that's how I came into our dear organization. And meeting you and meeting Yasmina and meeting the people from all over the world. So this is so great to do. And also in online, this is a big advantage for me. Right now in my course, I'm also having people from all over the world, and it's so fruitful in this way. So to get to know, and not only the people, but also a bit the cultures, the background from where they come from, and to see certain similarities and also differences. And this is so fascinating, just from the mental health perspective, to looking upon those, right? Yeah.
Absolutely. So tell me, Kora, you've been looking at various cultures, people. Do you think that's having an impact on a disease, like their cultural background and what they do and how they think and their value system? Do you think that's having an impact on how they manifest their disease, or does it have a part to play in their disease?
Well, in one way, it's of course always the individual who's making this up, but the way that you are influenced and impacted by both your culture, whether you're running along with your culture or you're getting in conflict with something, like I also did, right? So from the beginning. So this is making a big difference, right? So on one hand, so this can be, oh, this is our tradition, we're doing it like that. And then you could even have like cultural things that have been conflicting in history, and like also reflecting in the persons. So as we knew from from certain communication on conferences, there are actually differences, and there are certain diseases which are run very high in certain countries and others not. And this, of course, also has to do with a kind of history from that culture and those experiences, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm so interested in the personal history of everybody. If you can, I know we've done talks before, but just for this time, if you could take us through briefly through your childhood and your history, like who were your mom and dad, and 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 where do you come from, and stuff like that.
I do my very best. Okay, so yeah, so yes, I was born to both German parents, but actually they came from different backgrounds. So that was like after World War II, and the family of my mother had fled from Silesia into a western part, and yeah, the family of my father was also, and they were actually both kind of refugees. So from their background. And I think I might have inherited some patterns and some beliefs or something, reflecting that, especially the history of my on my mother's part and my grandmother's part, who had to flee to take care of her kids while the father was at war, and so on and so on, these things. But when my parents met, they were really this loving couple, and that was in the western part of Germany. So they were in safety, and they wanted to build up a family. And then it first didn't work out. And this might have been something around the history of my mother, perhaps, because she first couldn't bear out the children and give birth. So she had like two or three miscarriages. And then we came, and then she got twins. But those twins, me and my sister, also came out prematurely. So we came at 7 months and came into that incubator stuff. And that's where certainly I now know this was impacting both me and my sister, and I think my parents as well. So it actually created a yet greater bond between me and my mother. And then also a kind of that I carried in childhood, a kind of insecurity that I was always looking, is she happy? How's she doing? So like from having been separated just after birth, I think this is doing something to you. And so I was kind of, didn't have that real basic feeling of safety with people, right? So I also became kind of an introvert, which I still am in some way. Was looking for my own ways. And in another way, it's also that I learned to be different in a way. So not like the others. Although I had this twin sister, this was perhaps also the first thing that people, when you get into school, that like teachers tend to throw you into one box, because when you are in one class and you don't even look alike, because we don't, right? We are really like the opposite sides of a coin. And and still it's like, okay, but that's a package, those sisters. And we both kind of rebelled because we wanted to be our own. So perhaps it's therefore, so that sometimes we're developing these personalities in a way where you don't really care about whether you're really part of everybody else, or if you stick out for whatever that is, right? So, and that's how my history went a little bit. I was a bit of a loner, developed my own ideas, which were like quite so autonomous there. So not like going with saying or thinking like every other girl does. And the other part of it, so just just break me if I'm
Just
talking
doing
too much
fab.
about
Just
One
doing fab.
Direction or so. Huh?
No, you're just doing fab. It's just that, we talk in meta about impact in pregnancy, in vitro. We talk about generational impacts, and here you are really talking about it. So if you look at your twin sister and you look at you, and you said, oh, we're very different, same circumstances, same body, you're very different. Can you tell people how you're different and what have you understood and why you're different? Thank you.
How I'm different from, okay, how that this is actually kind of my own self-picture and identity. That's what you're asking me about. So what I developed. Okay, so that's the next little bit weird and interesting part, because even when I was a little kid, I was kind of like outside, out of the roles, and I never experienced myself as, oh, that's the little girl. No, I was the little boy. So I was kind of that. It's not that I actually that I need to be a male person and a man, but it was kind of like that. So which made me revolt when I had to close like a girl, and I always took some other stuff on. That's when I was allowed to, I cut my hair short. That when it was, well, I just identified, and I like to play with the guys rather than with the girls, or do things like adventurous stuff on my own. Yeah, so that's something that actually impacted me, and I think I carried that. I carried that from the birth process, perhaps also from that history. It was something that I at least considered, that the hard and dangerous times that the family of my grandmother with her kids went through, and she never told anybody what happened, really, right? So I could never ask my grandmother later what happened during the when they were refugees or in the war. She never would tell me anything about that, which actually raised my curiosity, obviously, about that. But then can you imagine that there have been certain things where somebody would have rather wanted to be not a woman. So perhaps that was something that might have impacted me there. That was kind of, even when I was a little kid, I already was that way. And my mother told me at a point that I would have said as a very, very little kid, I'm not a girl, I'm a boy. I said that, right? So must have done something. But then later in life, I was just myself.
Oh,
Right.
beautiful.
I never right kind of to change like the gender or something like that. I was just myself, being myself. I'm somebody in between, right? Something like that.
Wow,
It doesn't
that's
really
just
matter.
so beautiful. That's
Yeah.
just so beautiful, Kora. I mean, I love the way you say, I'm just myself. I don't know how many people do that with that confidence with which you say, I'm just myself.
Yeah. So I mean, what can you do otherwise? So I mean, yeah, I could tell you more stories about all that. So and it wasn't really really easy pie. And I went then had a state when I went into adulthood, where I went into depression, mania, and all that stuff, and having kind of an addiction of movement and controlling my eating and all of that. So I went through this as well, and that was actually when I left that home that had been a safe place, of course, for everybody. But then I always had said, oh, but I don't want to be that just that this pampered person that pampered you always in safety. No, I've something about that, right? Is also about my identity. So I had to go out in the world and make my own experiences. And at that point, I really touched those things about my person, which are throwing you into that manic depressive scale, where also the the hormones are running wild. So, and there were some, I had some very weird experiences and stories. So when I share them, we would go on for 3 hours, I guess.
No, it's fine. I mean, I'm not talking about 3 hours, but those experiences are really precious. If you can
No.
share at least one of them, that would
Yeah.
be brilliant. Because
Yeah.
coming from certain backgrounds, people think life is to be just like that. And I love people who can redefine their life. I love it when you say, I did this, and that's perfect. And that's what
You
makes
know,
you.
Anu, I redefined or recreated my life like over and over again in my life. So it's
Wow.
there were some not each year, but several times, and it was really a turnaround. Like the first thing was when I left home, went into that state, and then it became healing myself. I threw myself out into what my own beliefs were about being a good person, about not needing so much, about doing something good in the world and living like in the countryside and in nature and doing something completely different from all the others who are doing it all wrong. Like it's a little bit Greta Thunberg. And I think she shared the same condition. And it's this kind of idealistic mindset that I had when I was in at that age in my youth as well. And what I experienced that really changed my life, because I felt flat on my stomach with all of my ideals. And I was at the place where it took me, which was a farm that was run without machines, without any electrical power. They were doing just like the right thing. So like people should be able to live and not destroy the environment and all of this. So and in this place, I went completely like sick, unhealthy. Before that, I was addicted to all of that, but still I was manic, right? Most of the time, or could make myself manic by running around and doing stuff and feeling great. But then I was actually getting, it didn't suffice. It was not enough what I did, never. So like to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning first, and then going to threshing or going to run around with the animals and all of that, and then never stopping working until like late night. It was just draining me out, so that I just couldn't do it. And that was completely opposite to my own ideals. So it was the complete self-devaluation, right? In a way. So learning about that, how this could play out really, when I went along with all of those big ideals that I had, that I was actually using my humanity. Yeah, so like that. And that's what those guys who kept that farm did. They kind of, at least in the perspectives that I had and how they treated people, they lost something of that. Yeah, so it was not like really supporting. I didn't experience like that, but always craving. It was never enough. And I never had that in my parents, right? But this was actually this place was where I decided to go. Therefore, I never regretted that. And that's something which is a very meta healthy thing. When you decide something for yourself, you never make mistakes. You never have to regret anything, and you can actually suffer a great deal because you can tolerate it. It's your own decision, right? And that's how it was for me. I suffered a great deal, but it healed me from this addiction. It made me more calm down. It made me, and I decided at some point, okay, I can't put up with that anymore, and I have to leave this place. And then I did. It was another decision. I went back to my parents and healed. And and I had developed several conditions like edema and many stuff that I'm telling people in my courses. So what happened, and certain allergies and all of this kind of thing. I had been once to a doctor, to a homeopathic doctor during that time, and he had found lots and lots and lots of things which I never had before and never had after. So there was really this condition, my decision. I'll give me that. I have to know who I am and to do everything that I can be. And then like fell flat on my stomach with that and becoming a more humble human being because of it, and really finding out more about myself then. So I had a new startup then. And yeah, learned or worked in my original profession, which I had learned, which was as in physiotherapy and massage and those kinds of therapies. So physical therapies, because I always like to work with my hands. I wanted to do that and not only work with my mind, although I love to do that as well and find out about stuff. And yeah, so I did that. And then there was another turnaround happening in my life. I had actually come back to some kind of a manic state again, and I had an accident, and which put me into a hospital and then gave me other conditions to work on in my life. And this again had changed a lot, and it was just the right thing. So broadly speaking, if some shit happens in your life that you didn't expect, okay, you'll understand why this happened perhaps a couple of years later. And that's what I always did. That's what was a like repetition in my life, not only this mania or something, but really this, when something happens and you don't know why this happens, you will know later. It's always a good thing.
So Kora, I hear a lot of positivity in your voice. I hear that no matter what happens, it's just the dots of your life that when you go back and join them, you will see what a beautiful, magnificent design it creates in life. And it may be
just an adventure. It
yes.
Really is for each person. I can just like yeah, I'm one of those examples. So when this happens, whether you want it or not, but it's a great adventure, and it's good to, when you run with that, you always find I always found the support that I needed as well. Like I found out about Torsten when I just was in a state that I had decided to be in, but that I experienced that not be the optimum at that point. That's when I met Torsten. And we stayed together, as he said, like more than 20 years now. I think
I would like to know more about your partnership. I don't think anyone knows about it. And I really would like to know more about, how he called himself an alien, you called yourself someone.
Also an alien.
and how do two aliens meet together to create something as beautiful as you two have? So I really would like to know a little bit more about, your connect with him.
Yeah, you know what? The thing which makes it perhaps easiest is to connect somebody who's also a weird person, because you don't expect them to be normal. And that's why you can get along, and you can also respect each other. Although I know, yeah, so we're also both territorial, right? So we don't always respect each other, but broadly speaking, we do. We get along well, though otherwise we wouldn't have been together in 22 years and still being, and not marrying, of course, because, right? So we're not the people who wanted to have a big family. Both of us didn't want that, but we have our own baby, which is our boat, right? And we Absolutely. Have our own baby, which is mental health. We found that. So I found that, of course, earlier than Torsten. I took it with me for lots of years in my life now.
So
Yeah,
Kora,
so, and that's the way that's also like a family, and also having kind of a parent role, which I obviously have, although I never really wanted to be a parent, but I know other people who are just like great as, yeah, to play with each other, and also to support other people. And that's the role that I am seeing myself in Mental Health International, right? Both in this, well, I'm so interested in like having the different perspective and talking about those, right? And developing the thing, but also yeah, creating the foundation for others to do the same, right? I love my practitioners, and not just make them memorize something that they must know, but I'm always like to ask them, what are your experience about that, right? What are your thoughts about that? Is there something in contradictory? Is there something that we want to bring into the picture, and so on? So I'm so much for developing and in seeing people bloom when you let them do this. I think there's a lot of people who feel, yeah, who really like this course.
absolutely. And I've experienced how you teach. It's just so open, so beautiful. And the way you give everybody chance to kind of be the part of it. That's really something that really touched my heart, and something I will carry from you. It's not just that you learn a subject, you learn the way of doing things. And that's really, really something that I looked at and said, wow, that's very, very precious. So, Kora,
Thank
can
you.
you give me 5 things that you learned from Dawson? 5 things
Okay.
that
Okay,
you learned
5 things.
from him. And like you may not be grateful about it, you may be grateful about it. But 5 things that you learned from him.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I learned to, if I didn't know that before, I learned with Torsten, and I really yeah, indulge in that, in having in having our own like territories or competencies, and being able to delegate. To in a way, I like to do things on my own, but not all things. So uh, so, and I really learned to be grateful to have somebody to relieve me from doing like paperwork, and doing something where you need to calculate something, because I just hate it, and this kind of thing. um so yeah, so okay, even if you want to be kind of autonomous, it's something where you still want to get together, and each and every one has their place in their sharings, right? So yeah, which is a very good thing. It also makes me quite like accepting other people. I learned in my childhood to accept people like as they are, and also being interested in the background. And but I really developed that with Torsten's help. What I learned from Torsten is that that mental health sometimes is so easy, because he's like the ideal client you can have, because he's so much in contact with himself, and also so creative, so that it was just like in a couple of minutes that we could resolve his hay fever, like just sitting on the table having a little talk, and then afterwards he went out, and it was just like full-blown summer and so on, and nothing happened anymore. So, and it doesn't happen with everybody. It doesn't happen with me, because I'm also more like a yes but person, but he's not. So he's so, yeah, so that's really something that I learned. Yeah, there are people who can do this, and I learned the way how this works, and I need to work out how to make these features accessible to the others who cannot yet, right? So how to really get into this confidence, self-confidence, because that's something he definitely has. Yeah, to really make things work out. Like he released his thyroid issue. Not many people do that just as easy as him, like going onto a trip for himself and then healing himself, and just having it a little bit coming back, like reminding him, oh, I should, like he told you. But that, I mean, this is really balanced. This is really great. This is a healthy way, right? And I don't have that healthy way yet, so I'm still learning from him, who also is, because he's got this kind of confidence and this self-care. He's taking a siesta every day, which can take several hours sometimes if he can do it, and I don't. And when I'm up, I'm like running around and doing everything and feeling good as well. But it's, in me, it's, I can triggering this kind of manic state much easier than he does, and he can trigger this kind of balanced state much easier than I can. And I of course have also my ways of doing it, but I can need his reminders. So that's what I'm grateful for, and that's what I'm learning with him.
That's so beautiful. Why I wanted you to talk about this is you both seem to be very independent people. And yet you've been with each other for 20 years. In 20 years, if we rub each other with each other, there's so much that we can rub on each other. It feels to me as if no matter what happens, we still need company, and something in you really makes him feel safe, and something in him really makes you feel safe. If that was one thing that makes you feel safe, because we've been talking about vagus nerve, what would it be? What would it be for you that kept this relationship going for 20 years? And it's not easy, especially for someone who says, hey, I need to be, all by myself. I don't need people. I'm fine by me. I need to do this. Yet something about him makes you feel safe. And what would that be?
Yeah, like having a companion who you really can share everything with, because he's also so weird, so you don't have to look, have any barriers for. So we know a lot about ourselves, and also like our weaknesses and Achilles heels and all of this, right? And yet it's such a safety. It's just the support of having a companion who you can share with, and who you can really be honest with. And yeah, so we had a lot to give to each other in that respect. He got a family that he didn't have, so he had mine, and they're loving, so they love him. And yeah, and I had him with all of the things that he can do for me, to be together, and then also relieving me from some stuff, because I'm so lazy, like, okay, let Torsten do that, which I can't or don't want to. Most of it is about not really having to, because you don't want to, and I can indulge myself in that respect right now.
So Kora, what would you tell people who find themselves different? What would you tell, because there's so many people across the globe who find themselves to be different. The terminologies that you've different, like Dawson said, he's an alien, and I laughed and said, I felt like an alien at one point in my life. And you spoke about being an alien, basically being different, not fitting in, not being part of anything completely. What's a message you would like to tell them? What should they do, so that, I'm not asking what should they do to fit in, what should they do to feel complete? Because you cannot fit in.
Yes, it's even if you don't see that now, and even if you suffer by your condition and perhaps your beliefs around the condition, take to your heart that it is a gift, not only to you, but to the world.
Wow. Could you repeat that once more for people? Because it doesn't sink in the first time, because this...
I do it. So even if you're suffering by who you think you are, or could not be, and that you feel that you don't fit in, even if you suffer in the environment that you are still in, and inside yourself, when you're suffering with yourself. Be reminded by me that this is a gift for you. The way that you are is not only a gift that you will perceive to be yourself when the time's right, but also you're a gift to the world. You're a gift to the world with just who you are. You see, right now I'm interviewed by Anu as the one who I am, who I developed to be, and hopefully we can get out some kind of gift, some kind for everybody who's picking this up. It's the same for everybody.
I just take it from you, it's not a bad thing to be different. And you brought tears to my eyes. It's not a bad thing if you don't fit in.
And there's a place and a position for everybody. Not everybody needs to have a family, although this is our biology, right? So, but it's, yeah, like even in the animal kingdom. So it doesn't need to happen, right? And no, there's a place for everybody. And with your history and your upbringing and the thing that was brought to you by your ancestors and then by your own story. So it's giving you all those possibilities, all those talents that you develop in being a force for good also to the whole world, to the whole universe. That's what is the gift. Right? And we have it already. And throughout our lives, I think we kind of learn to free this more and more and to give this out and to honor this in us and in others.
Absolutely. And I feel very grateful. Thank you for sharing yourself. Thank you for sharing your wisdom. And thank you for being different.
Yeah, thank you so much, Anu. I didn't know that these things would be coming up or dropping out of my mouth, but that's what usually happens. So when you're asking, right? Yes.
I just feel, and I repeat this again, the interviews that I'm doing right now are so that we really see people behind the faces. And these people behind the faces are not your assumptions, are not your presumptions. They're just themselves. They're beautiful just the way they are.
Yes. And all of us together is like the big bunch of flowers, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Till we meet again, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for that opportunity. Thank you, dear, dear Anu. Thank you from my heart.